Welcome to Hidden Horizons, a sanctuary where the most fascinating and overlooked stories from world history quietly unfold. Here, journey into lost civilizations, forgotten innovations, and the mysteries of human ingenuity, all brought to life through calm narration. If you find yourself captivated by these hidden tales, we invite you to like and subscribe to support future explorations into the secrets of our shared past. In this episode, we step into the swirling mists of prehistory to discover a civilization that dared to imagine cities without kings, societies that flourished not by command of rulers, but through networks of shared purpose. Prepare to question everything you know about power, order, and what it truly means to build a civilization. Chapter 1. The Mist Before History. Picture a dawn not marked by kings, but by the gentle stirring of humanity across valleys veiled in fog. Here, ancient landscapes stretch beneath a sky heavy with secrets, inviting our imagination to wander. The world is vast and tranquil, its silence broken only by the distant call of birds and the slow awakening of communities lost to time. In this hush before history, there are no monuments carved in the likeness of rulers, no thrones or palaces casting their shadows across the land. Instead, there are villages huddled close to rivers, fires flickering in the early morning gloom. The earth itself seems to hold its breath, preserving stories not in stone but in soil, waiting quietly for curious minds to uncover them. Imagine the damp grass beneath your feet as you cross ancient fields where people once gathered as equals. Picture communities coming together at dawn, their purpose woven through simple rituals and the sharing of bread. The pace is slow, almost dreamlike. Faces are illuminated by firelight and the mist softens every outline, blurring the boundaries between past and present. There is a kind of magic in this time before names and records, a world where wisdom comes from elders by the hearth, and each generation shapes the next with quiet resilience. No commands echo through these valleys. Instead, a soft consensus allows harmony to bloom, suggesting that power here is a thread woven through many hands rather than wielded from a single seat. As the mist begins to lift, subtle hints of organization reveal themselves. Rows of dwellings nestled close together, carefully aligned to capture sunlight and shelter from the wind. Early paths wind between homes, and shared spaces for gathering show a commitment to cooperation. Though there are signs of labor and communal effort, there are no crowns, no scepters, no artifacts proclaiming a single master. It is here, in this uncanny stillness, that we must reconsider our familiar narratives. Can great cities rise without the guiding hand of a king? Could complex societies flourish through shared values, mutual respect, and the subtle art of collective decision? These questions linger like the morning fog, inviting us to question what we believe about order and authority. Let your mind drift across these old meadows, where settlements grew not from conquest, but from kinship and trust. The evidence remains elusive, fragments of tools, patterns in the soil, the gentle slope of embankments. Everything whispers of a time when leadership was not a title, but a process unfolding around the communal fire, shaped by stories and the needs of the many. In the veiled dawn of civilization, every shadow and every echo becomes part of a greater puzzle. We are left with glimpses, soft and subtle, challenging us to imagine how power and order arise when no one stands above the rest. As we continue, the mists will part further, and the truth of these enigmatic societies will slowly come to light. Chapter 2. The Puzzle of the City Without a King. In the heart of crumbling valleys and silent ruins, archaeologists have found something truly puzzling. Remnants of entire cities, masterfully built and carefully planned, stretch across the landscape. Streets form deliberate grids, grand plazas unfold under the sky, yet there is a striking absence of palatial remains. No royal tombs, no gleaming thrones waiting to be unearthed beneath the dust. These silent cities invite endless questions. How could people create such ordered, majestic places without a single central ruler to guide their work? Where are the symbols of kingship and power that so often define ancient civilizations? The artifacts uncovered tell stories of shared craftsmanship and daily life, but none point to a dynasty or ruling boss whose word shaped the stones or decided the plan. The absence of a king's palace or a ruler's grave shifts our perspective. Instead of looming monuments to one powerful figure, we find sprawling marketplaces, communal halls, and open spaces designed for gatherings. The city itself becomes the hero, its heart beating through the movement of common people, craftsfolk, and traders moving through its well-planned roads. Archaeologists sift through layers of clay, bits of pottery, and faded foundations, hoping for a clue that might reveal who directed these grand designs. Still, no royal scepter or carving appears to claim ownership. What emerges instead is a story of collective effort, of many hands shaping stone and making decisions not for a single leader, but for the entire community. As we wander through these ancient sites in our minds, we notice the details left behind a shared oven in a marketplace, evidence of massive communal food storage, and meeting rooms that suggest assemblies rather than thrones. These remnants whisper a different tale, people building for the many, not the few, daily life unfolding without orders from above. Sophisticated planning is written in the very bones of these cities. Drainage channels wind beneath the streets, public wells dot the landscape, and workshops align along thoroughfares intended for easy access. The design hints at complex cooperation, suggesting that the citizens themselves may have taken part in organizing and maintaining their surroundings, bound by agreement and shared priorities. Without royal decrees, how were disputes settled, trade organized, and defenses managed? Artifacts like clay tablets, seals, and tokens show systems of counting goods and marking agreements. These tools for administration suggest local councils or community-led governance, where many voices weighed decisions instead of commands passed from a throne high above. Buried deep beneath centuries of earth, the silence left by missing kings is profound. Yet, the hum of daily life is everywhere. We find children's toys, combs carved from bone, pottery marked by many makers, and this diversity hints at a society where daily existence mattered more than commemorating the deeds of any one individual. These are cities whose stories are written in everyone's hand. The lack of palaces and royal monuments unsettles the way we usually read history. Our textbooks often focus on heroes and rulers as the driving force behind civilization's great leaps. Here, the evidence asks us to imagine a place where power was dispersed, where rules came from consensus or custom, and where life thrived far from the shadow of a single crown. As we reflect on these extraordinary discoveries, a deep mystery remains. We are left to wonder, what ideas, values, or unwritten laws held such a society together? How did they resolve conflict, chart the city's future, or maintain peace? In the shadows of absent kings, we glimpse possibilities that still challenge our ideas about the power and shape of human communities. Chapter 3. Threads of Cooperation. Within the quiet hum of these ancient cities, signs of collaboration emerge everywhere. Streets do not radiate from palaces, but wind around shared courtyards and open spaces. These layouts whisper of people who preferred conversation over command, where community decisions shaped how life was built. Instead of monuments to rulers, there are communal spaces that blend into everyday life, an invitation to see power. There are no great statues of kings, nor inscriptions boasting of singular rulers in these cities. Instead, archaeologists find wide roads linking neighborhoods and gathering spots where tools are shared and grain is stored collectively. These patterns reveal a society weaving trust and mutual dependence into its daily existence, choosing woven bonds over rigid rankings. In the gentle rhythm of shared work, a hidden logic guided the heartbeat of their civilization. Communal granaries stand at the center of settlements. Their size and careful construction tell a tale of planning beyond the needs of one family or clan. These granaries protected against famine, but they also became symbols of a social contract. Each harvest was gathered into a collective store, a gesture of faith in neighbors and kin. The city thrived not through fear, but by trusting that abundance could be nurtured together. Tool workshops filled with unfinished artifacts spark the imagination. Here, tools were shaped not for private hoards, but for the use of all. Shared workspaces suggest the passing on of skill and responsibility, as elders taught the young and knowledge became a gift rather than a secret. These places ring with echoes of laughter and the gentle clatter of hands, charting a deeper network of collaboration. This cooperative spirit was not accidental. City maps reveal clusters of homes around communal wells and ovens, pointing to needs satisfied together. Gathering water, grinding grain, and firing pottery became occasions for connection, knitting people into each other's stories. The absence of walls and fortresses tells us something precious. These people chose openness over order imposed by force. Their strength, quiet and patient, spread through networks of helping hands. Decision-making, too, left subtle fingerprints in the archaeological record. We find no throne rooms or ceremonial seats. Instead, there are courtyards large enough for many voices, and artifacts arranged as if for collective ritual rather than personal display. It's as if consensus was built every day, as ordinary and essential as sharing a meal. Authority grew from listening, and choices were carried forward by many footsteps rather than a single will. Shared labour was woven into the city's rhythm. At planting time, hands joined to carve irrigation channels through the earth. In harvest season, grain was threshed in open spaces, watched over by smiling elders and shouting children. Every festival, every repair, became a reminder that life here was crafted together. In their architecture and artifacts, the many left their mark as one quiet proof of a world built through unity. Even in moments of crisis, the evidence suggests these communities met challenge as one. When floodwaters threatened or drought pressed upon the fields, the city's resources were pooled. Rooms filled with emergency stores, and neighbours gathered in the granary to decide the next step. Their resilience shone not in conquest, but in the steady courage to stand together, forging hope through dialogue and mutual aid. These choices shaped a unique kind of order. Roads and drainage systems were meticulously planned not by decree, but by centuries of shared learning. Each improvement, from the angle of a street to the curve of a water channel, represented agreements reached through discussion and patient trial. In this way, the city itself became a silent record of collective wisdom, sheltering each generation beneath its cooperative embrace. In reflecting on these ancient threads of cooperation, we glimpse a civilization that flourished without kings. Their legacy is not measured in tales of conquest, but in the quiet triumph of harmony and shared purpose. Theirs was a society where trust built walls stronger than stone, and every citizen carried a piece of the city's heart. Through their story, we rediscover the radical power of working side by side. Chapter 4. Rivers, Fields, and Shared Wealth. The dawn stretches its pale light over winding rivers as they carve through the rich earth. From above you can see a network of channels branching out, quenching the thirsty fields, their patterns shaped not by the will of a king, but by the hands of many. Here, water is life, and each drop is stewarded collectively by the community. These ancient waterways are more than nature's gift. They are works of careful human planning. The people who lived here understood that to thrive together, they must work together. They dug canals, reinforced embankments, and watched over the flow of water as one. The river became more than a boundary or a challenge. It united them in shared purpose, binding the villages along its course. With the river's help, vast fields sprang to life, waving with grains that shivered under the gentle hand of the wind. The soil, dark and fertile, was turned by many hands-old and young, men and women, each knowing the rhythms of planting by heart. Every season, the community would gather, tools in hand, turning earth and sowing seeds, their voices weaving together as they worked side by side. Harvest was a time of joy and balance, guided by shared traditions rather than the command of a throne. When crops ripened under the sun, villagers moved through the fields together, laughter echoing across the land. Grain was measured and divided not by rank but by need. Families helped one another, ensuring that no one went without, and abundance flowed outward from the generosity of many. The heart of this system was simple: cooperation. There were no grand palaces towering in the distance, no monuments to a single leader. Instead, community gatherings shaped decisions. Elders and farmers met by the water's edge, voices low, discussing the coming rains and the chores to be shared. It was in these gentle meetings that order emerged, woven from trust, memory, and mutual respect. Irrigation itself was an act of unity. When a canal needed repair after a flood, the village mobilized as one. Tools were lent, hands were offered, and no name was more important than another. The result was a landscape shaped by countless contributions, where every patch of green, every full granary, told a story of shared labour and collective responsibility. Yet, such harmony demanded careful negotiation. Disputes sometimes arose, a broken promise over a water channel or a late arrival to a communal task. But rather than punishment from above, resolutions came through quiet talk and open listening. Elders offered their wisdom, children watched and learned. The community's strength lay in its willingness to mend more than just dikes and furrows. Through these shared efforts, wealth was measured differently. Ownership of the land mattered less than the health of the harvest or the happiness of a family. Ceremonies at the end of each season celebrated not a few, but all. Songs praised both the river's gift and those who coaxed life from its waters, honouring every hand that had shaped abundance from earth and time. The rivers themselves became symbols of this common purpose. As children laughed on their banks and elders tended to the smallest streams, the whole community recognized that their future depended on each other. Water linked every home and field, carrying the hopes and hard work of everyone who drew upon its flow, a silent agreement written anew each dawn. Looking closer, these fields and rivers reveal a deeper lesson. In this place, power is not something seized, it is something shared, flowing through thousands of daily acts and choices. The richness of the land reflects the richness of connection. Here, civilization grew not from command, but from cooperation, and the true wealth was found in community, flowing steadily from generation to generation. Chapter 5. Stories in the Stones. Deep within what remains of ancient cities, archaeologists discover something remarkable, stories painstakingly etched into stone. Rather than grand statues of mighty kings, there are murals, carvings, and small figurines. These artifacts are not emblems of an individual's triumph, but subtle messages left by communities. Each tells a story, not of conquest, but of belonging and the values shared by those who lived here long ago. Each carved surface draws us closer to lives lived so many centuries ago. Scenes of daily work, animals, and symbols fill the walls, telling tales that must have been cherished. These are not deeds anchored to a single hero, but carefully chosen expressions of collective memory. In the flicker of firelight or the hush before dawn, people gathered around these stories, sharing their beliefs and passing lessons from one generation to the next. Wandering amid broken walls, you notice the diversity of images. Some stones reveal processions of figures holding hands or dancing, suggesting communal celebrations and rituals. Others show animals entwined with human forms, perhaps illustrating myths of creation or the spirits believed to dwell in nearby rivers and forests. The purpose of these expressions seems clear, to root each generation in shared origins and a sense of destiny shaped together. Many figurines are small enough to fit the palm of a hand, their faces carefully shaped, their postures gentle. Some may have been toys, others offerings or protective charms. None display crowns or royal regalia. Instead, their simplicity speaks to a culture where status was measured by contribution to the group, not by wielding power over others. These humble objects hold echoes of countless personal hopes and silent prayers. Perhaps the most striking murals show no singular leader at all, but scenes of people working side by side, building, harvesting, guiding animals. Even their sacred animals are drawn without a sense of hierarchy, as if animals and humans occupied a shared story. In these images, we find visions of cooperation, a narrative crafted by and for everyone, celebrating unity over conquest or rule. The deeper archaeologists dig, the more they notice patterns. Motifs reappear across centuries, circles, linked hands, woven lines. These symbols likely carried meanings beyond words, acting as threads connecting one age to the next. Passed down through repeated retelling, they helped societies remember what mattered most: trust, belonging, cycles of life. Here, story was the glue holding cities together, not a king issuing commands. Oral traditions thrived alongside these carvings. Children would sit close while their elders pointed to a painted animal or a carved figure, weaving tales of how people first learned to plant seeds or tame water. These stories grounded the community's sense of identity. They were a living archive, reshaped by each generation, reflecting not just changes in environment, but evolving hopes for the future. Importantly, these stories in stone hint at shared values instead of reinforcing the pride of a ruling class. Images of food gathered, ceremonies conducted, and tools traded suggest cooperation was prized above personal ambition. Artifacts from distant lands sometimes appear alongside local relics, a hint that these people welcomed new ideas, perhaps exchanging not just goods, but stories embracing change while honouring tradition. In these ancient urban landscapes, the absence of royal portraits or inscriptions boasting of a single ruler's might is telling. Instead, the very walls and courtyards become libraries of shared wisdom. Here, even the smallest stone could carry a piece of the community's soul, reminding every passerby that their story mattered and that together their voices wove the fabric of civilization. So, as we leave these ruins behind, we remember that cities can rise and endure through the silent work of many, not just the command of one. The stones speak with patient voices, inviting us to listen and learn how values and myths can guide collective hearts across the centuries. In these ancient societies, it was not a king's power that lasted, but the stories everyone carried. Chapter 6. Markets of Trust. In the heart of these ancient cities, marketplaces flourish with vibrant life. There are no tax collectors from a distant palace, no royal decrees on what may be bought or sold. Instead, trust weaves through each stall and each handshake. Every buyer and seller relies on the unspoken agreements of their communities, forging connections that shape the daily rhythms of life. Coins jingle, voices rise and fall. The cobbled lanes wind between rows of traders, their tables dressed with woven baskets, glinting metalwork, and fragrant herbs. Here, barter flows as naturally as conversation, a potter exchanging a bowl for bolts of linen, a baker trading loaves for honey. Each specialized craft finds its place, thriving without a king's command to organize the work. The sounds of commerce carry an undertone of harmony, as trust makes bargains possible. Stalls bustle with energy, yet there is no sign of royal guards or official scribes. Record-keeping happens on clay tablets passed from hand to hand, each inscribed with careful marks. The value of a good or a promise is judged by collective memory and reputation, rather than by an edict. People gather in clusters, negotiating, laughing, and sometimes simply watching. The atmosphere is both lively and patient, strangers welcomed as potential friends, strangers welcomed as potential friends. Listen to the voices drifting on the morning breeze. A beam of sunlight gleams across carpets and bronze bowls. The absence of royal oversight has not led to chaos, but to an intricate pattern of mutual respect. Market leaders are chosen by consensus elders whose words carry weight, artisans known for fairness. Disputes are settled quietly beneath awnings, with witnesses drawn from the crowd. The peace of the marketplace is guarded by trust alone. Children weave between stalls, curiosity lighting their faces as they watch deals unfold. A basket maker demonstrates his skill, hands moving with practiced grace. No overseer tracks his his reputation ensures his livelihood. Coins are rare and precious. Most exchanges depend on memory and integrity. The pulse of the market quickens as midday approaches, a tapestry of colour and sound, held together by invisible bonds of community trust. Not all business happens in the open. Behind the vibrant stalls, agreements are sealed with a simple gesture, a nod, a clasped hand. These subtle rituals carry as much weight as a royal seal might elsewhere. The unwritten codes are understood by all. Keep your promise and return for the next bargain. Craft guilds form around this principle, lending support to their members and training the next generation in skills and honesty alike. Visitors from distant lands pause in wonder at the scene. They find that their foreign coins have little value here unless accompanied by goodwill. Merchants smile, offering samples before asking for payment. Words are exchanged, stories traded alongside spices and wool. The market becomes a meeting place, not just for goods, but for culturisa. Quiet reminder that trust can bridge differences as surely as any treaty signed in a king's name. As shadows stretch across the stones, markets begin to close. Sellers count their earnings, some in copper, some in grain, some in promises to repay. There are no imperial record keepers demanding their share. Trust lingers in every farewell and shared glance, a currency more enduring than any minted coin. The market's rhythm slows, but the connections forged over the day will echo onward through the city's winding streets. Evening settles, and the empty stalls bear signs of a day well spent. Scattered straw, a few forgotten almonds, laughter fading in the distance. Stories of clever trades and generous exchanges will be told as families gather. Here, commerce is not just about goods, but about relationships. The bonds are personal, and every market day renews the ancient pact that prosperity flows from trust, not decrees or force. Before the marketplace empties, elders pause to share wisdom with the young. Trust makes the city strong, and the bazaar's beauty lies in its balance. Without a king to settle disputes, people turn to each other. The secret of their thriving trade is simple, shared belief in honesty, patience, and mutual respect. In these markets of trust, civilization takes on a human face, reshaping our understanding of what makes a city endure. Chapter 7. The Harmony of Many Voices. In this chapter, we journey into the heart of communal decision-making, where the voices of many wove the tapestry of daily life. Instead of one leader commanding and dictating, people gathered in assemblies and councils, their words mingling in the open air. Here, every adult might have their say, and outcomes were shaped by gentle persuasion rather than force. This was a chorus, not a solo. Assemblies were often held under the sky, in public spaces that echoed with laughter, debate, and shared worries. Resolving disputes meant hearing every side, letting emotions settle like dust after a rain. The process valued patience, listening, and reflection, drawing solutions from the collective wisdom of the group. These gatherings became the invisible threads binding the community together, fostering trust instead of fear, and unity instead of fear, and unity instead of discord. Councils were central pillars of this social fabric. From elders to younger voices, the council blended experience with fresh perspective, ensuring decisions reflected not just tradition, but the present moment's complexity. Everyone watched, listened, and learned from each other. Arguments could be spirited, but the aim was not to win. Instead, it was to find a resolution that left no one behind. Consensus wasn't always quick, but it was cherished. The power of words stood in sharp contrast to the sharpness of weapons. Oral traditions carried stories of past disputes and the gentle ways they'd been resolved, teaching new generations the subtle art of peaceful persuasion. Instead of might, mutual understanding became a sign of strength. Elders might retell a cautionary tale, and the listeners learned that wisdom lies in patience and harmony, not in dominating others or standing alone. Harmony was not something that simply appeared. It was crafted day after day by choices both small and large. Even during tense moments, participants remembered they were caretakers of a shared legacy. Silence had a place too. Sometimes it was as important as words. It gave space for minds to calm and for empathy to grow. Decisions reached after such pauses were often more enduring, carried forward as examples for the future. Consensus was its own kind of power. Unlike decrees issued from above, it emerged from a gradual weaving together of hopes, fears, and ideas. Everyone had to give a little, to listen deeply, and to understand more than their own position. When agreement was finally reached, it belonged to everyone, a shared promise. This fragile, deliberate unity became the foundation upon which the community continued to thrive year after year. Celebrations often followed major decisions, marking the restoration of harmony with music, food, and ritual. These gatherings didn't just resolve problems, they renewed connections, reminding each person of their place in the group. In the glow of firelight, after a long debate, old rivals might share bread or laughter. The ability to disagree, recover, and come together again was the quiet strength of these societies, echoing through generations. Outsiders sometimes marveled at the patience required for this way of governance. To them, it seemed slow or even indecisive. But those who lived in these communities knew its steady rhythm prevented dangerous rifts. By letting every voice be heard, from oldest to youngest, these assemblies built resilience. The community was less likely to fracture, more willing to weather adversity, because no one was forced to the margins or left unheard. Even conflicts between distant families or neighbouring settlements could be addressed with this gentle strength. Special gatherings, or peace councils, called attention to the greater good, reminding everyone that their fates were entwined. The process could take days, even weeks, filled with storytelling, negotiation, and shared meals. In the end, the greatest victories were not in vanquishing an enemy, but in restoring trust and ensuring peace lasted for another season. Looking back, the harmony achieved by these ancient assemblies stands as a quiet rebuke to those who see only power and domination as paths to greatness. Here, strength lay in the courage to listen, the willingness to compromise, and the belief that each voice could add beauty to the whole. As we consider their legacy, we pause in gratitude for the lesson that peace, patiently woven, can endure as long as cities themselves. Chapter 8. Shadows on the Horizon. As the sun set on thriving cities, whispers of unease spread through quiet avenues and busy markets. The world outside their walls grew restless, and subtle shifts unsettled the familiar rhythm of daily life. Something unseen loomed at the edge of memory and shadow, hinting at challenges yet to come. Tonight, we journey through the mounting pressures that weighed heavily upon these ancient societies. The balance these civilizations had long maintained began to waver, nudged by forces both natural and human-made. Changes in climate brought seasons of uncertainty. Fields that once yielded plenty sometimes offered little, urging communities to reconsider the ways they'd always lived. This growing unpredictability planted seeds of concern across marketplaces, temples, and within every family hearth. Alongside these environmental shifts, the presence of neighboring powers became impossible to ignore. Towering mountains and deep rivers, which once offered protection, now seemed to narrow, channeling anxious news and the distant drums of marching feet. Stories circulated of rival settlements on the move, seeking new lands and resources, their ambitions stretching over every visible horizon. The threat was not only from beyond. Within the city boundaries, small fractures began to widen. Trade grew tense as scarcity seeped into every exchange. Some called for unity, others whispered blame. The sense of shared purposes, so crucial to a leaderless civilization, felt fragile. Every day brought new dilemmas that tested both loyalty and resolve. Old legends became more than stories. They were warnings and wisdom, spoken softly by lamplight. Elders reminded the young of times when floods swept away certainty, when fires brought both renewal and ruin. The past, once a guiding light, now seemed to cast longer, starker shadows, drawing a line between what had been and what still might come to pass. Rituals took on deeper meaning as the community gathered in candlelit circles. With every offering to mysterious forces, hopes of protection mingled with dread. People sought comfort in tradition, clinging to ceremonies that promised order amid the rising storm. Yet beneath these moments of unity, questions stirred. Could the old ways weather a world that was quickly changing? Crossroads beckoned, literal and symbolic. Merchants weighed the risks of new routes as strangers arrived at the city gates. Diplomacy became as crucial as rainfall. Alliances or rivalries would decide survival. Every choice seemed fraught, entwined with possibilities for triumph or calamity. Trust, patience, and wisdom grew to be as precious as grain in these testing times. Inside each home, families talked in hushed voices about dwindling reserves and strange happenings. Stories passed from neighbour to neighbour the cistern, running dry, unfamiliar disease, the mysterious disappearance of a trusted scout. Concern hung in the air, heavy yet tightly held, as if ancient walls themselves absorbed these fears and kept them unspoken, but known to all. Yet, in the face of encroaching shadows, hope remained. Leaders, though not kings, emerged from the crowd, offering gentle wisdom and practical counsel. Shared work and common meals became quiet acts of resistance. In knowing uncertainty, the people remembered that resilience was forged together, and their legacy depended upon their ability to adapt, listen, and endure. As night deepened, the city's lights flickered softly in defiance of darkness. Shadows lengthened but did not yet conquer. The horizon, once certain, had turned to mystery. Still, within each heart lingered the belief that even in the face of adversity, the spirit of a civilization built on cooperation, not command, could endure against all odds, holding hope steadfast through every trial. Chapter 9. Traces in the soil. Beneath layers of earth, relics from another way of life rest quietly silent witnesses to an order that flourished without crowns or courts. Archaeologists bend low, brushing dust from broken pottery and worn tools, each fragment a soft voice from a vanished community. A sense of calm lingers, mixed with mystery, as if the land itself holds its breath, recalling stories almost forgotten with the passage of ages. Deeper into the soil, abandoned hearths and toppled walls emerge, hinting at a rhythm of daily life tied not to commands, but to the gentle pull of shared needs. Each tool, every little pit and clay vessel, seems to murmur of hands once joined in labour and kinship. The quiet work of the present mirrors the quiet work of the past, patience, reflection, revealing the subtleties of cooperation woven through centuries. Some discoveries are so small a bead, a spindle whorl, a charred seed yet, their presence invites questions. Who last held these objects? Did they sit in silent thought, or in lively conversation with neighbours? The archaeologists move carefully, every trowel of dirt a page turned in a slow, unfolding book. The fragility of what remains offers a gentle reminder: all things change, and all communities, no matter how strong, are touched by time. In the quiet, a sense of vulnerability arises. The evidence is scattered, a wall crumbled, a house abandoned, the wounds of fire or drought or simple forgetfulness etched into the earth. Cities without kings stood not because they were unbreakable, but because they were adaptable, resilient in the face of hardship, yet always exposed to the whims of fate. What survives now are clues, delicate as spider silk, hinting at cooperation and its limit. The soil holds secrets too subtle to be seen at first glance: how neighbours gathered to repair a broken wall, or cared for children, while others hunted or harvested. The rhythm of cooperation pulses quietly beneath the surface, shown in shared grain pits and winding paths connecting modest homes. Through these simple traces, we glimpse not just an ancient people, but the timeless urge to work together, and the gentle cost of holding on to peace. Moments of quiet discovery often prompt reflection. For those sifting through these ancient remnants, every find blurs the boundary between past and present. Sometimes, a single footprint sealed in mud evokes the light tread of someone long ago, someone who trusted in the bonds of their group, and in the safety of a city ruled not by fear, but by consensus. These are fragile lessons, as delicate as any relic lifted from the earth. Yet not all clues point to harmony. Here, a row of defensive ditches; there, evidence of hurried abandonment or lost crops. Even societies seeking balance faced moments of fracture. The earth preserves these tensions as well reminders that cooperation is neither easy nor permanent. The story written in ruins is complex: unity and division, resilience and loss, all pressed together beneath layers of mud and time. To study these traces is to walk gently among ghosts. The archaeologist's hands pause in stillness, respecting what these ancient people built and what they could not hold. From the remnants of gardens and simple workshops comes understanding. Their strength sprang not from hierarchy, but from webs of trust that were beautiful, yet always breakable. As the day fades, silence settles, in a quiet tribute to lives spent in the pursuit of peaceful living. In their search, archaeologists learn humility. Grand palaces and battlefields often steal the spotlight, but here the drama is subtle: a communal kiln, cooperatively built granaries, the gentle slope where 100 small homes stood. Each fragment affirms that greatness can come from shared effort, not just singular command. The soil's story is reflective, inviting us to imagine other ways that people have learned to live with one another. When the day's work ends, the earth is carefully returned to rest. The cities without kings, though absent from most history still, whisper through the traces they left behind. Their resilience and vulnerability linger in the shadows of abandoned dwellings and the hush of wind over ancient fields. In these remnants lies a quiet challenge for us, to remember that cooperation, however fragile, can shape civilizations in ways as enduring as kings and ways as enduring as kings and warriors. Chapter 10. Lessons of the Lost Cities. As we pause at the close of our journey, the ruins of these ancient cities whisper with the voices of the past. Their stones and streets remind us of thriving communities that dared to organize themselves in unexpected ways. This chapter is a quiet invitation to reflect on what these vanished worlds can teach us today, if we are willing to listen to their silent counsel. The wisdom woven through these lost civilizations does not just reside in their monuments, but in the patterns of cooperation they perfected over generations. Without towering kings or lords, their people built lasting networks of trust and shared effort. As we witness their remnants, we may begin to question our own definitions of leadership and strength, wondering if there are quieter, uncelebrated forms of power we might still learn from. We see that the failures of these ancient societies are as revealing as their triumphs. Through collapse and abandonment, their stories remind us that resilience is as vital as innovation. They teach us caution against overreach and the dangers that can arise when balance within a community is lost. Their silent streets urge us to remember that true greatness is sustained not by domination, but by harmony and thoughtful stewardship. Modern society, so often drawn to charismatic leaders or towering hierarchies, might pause to consider how these cities flourished in the absence of kings. Their example encourages us to look beyond the individual and instead valorize the collective spirit. What might our communities achieve if we choose collaboration over control, shared purpose over singular power? The echoes from these lost places suggest possibilities we may have overlooked. Embedded in the earth, the tools and pottery of these people tell quieter stories of daily life shaped by custom, ritual, and mutual care. These artifacts show us that grand achievements can grow from the hands of many, not just the commands of a few. As we picture their bustling marketplaces or tranquil homes, we are invited to dream of societies where everyone's contribution is valued, where leadership itself is a communal act. The warnings these cities offer are just as profound as their lessons. We see how even systems built on cooperation can falter. Environmental shifts, scarcity, and subtle changes in ritual may have slowly eroded the bonds that held these societies together. Their decline is a gentle caution. No organization is immune to change or challenge. Long-lasting harmony demands vigilance, flexibility, and shared responsibility from all its members. Yet, their stories do not end only in caution. The ingenuity displayed in their urban planning, agriculture, and communal gathering speaks to an enduring human spirit. By reflecting on their ways, we learn that alternative models of civilization are possible ones that favor inclusion, adaptability, and balance over rigid authority. The ruins remind us that the world can be shaped in many different ways, and the paths we choose matter deeply. As we walk through the shadows and sunlight of their old avenues, something else becomes clear. Power is not always visible or loudly declared. Sometimes it flows quietly in the spaces between people, in trust and cooperation. The lost cities invite us to recognize that influence can emerge from consensus, and true security may lie in shared purpose lesson, as relevant now as it was thousands of years ago. What would it mean to embrace the teachings of these vanished societies in our own time? Could our modern world benefit from their emphasis on shared stewardship and collective wisdom? Perhaps, if we listen closely, their legacy will inspire us to experiment with new forms of organization resilient, compassionate, and adaptable. Their silent legacy may yet spark fresh possibilities for the cities and communities of tomorrow. As our journey through the civilization without kings comes to a close, we leave with questions rather than answers, echoes, and mysteries rather than certainties. The lessons of these lost cities linger on the wind, suggesting that history's greatest treasures might be the ideas and values waiting to be rediscovered. Let us wander forward with curiosity and humility, ever eager to learn from the quiet wisdom of ancient worlds. Chapter 11. Power Reimagined. As the story unfolds, we take a step back from the quiet streets and bustling life of these remarkable cities. A broader canvas appears, painted with images of distant lands ruled by powerful kings and ever-expanding empires. Here, the contrast is stark. Ancient models of collective life and cooperation set against a world where centralized rule felt almost inevitable, inviting us to reflect on human organization. Beyond river valleys and mud-brick walls, kingdoms rose and fell, their glory often tied to a single figure seated high above the people. In places like Egypt, Mesopotamia, and beyond, the word of the king was law, shaping destinies with a glance or decree. But in the gentle shadow of these cities, a different kind of power quietly endured, rooted not in crowns, but in community. How did such models flourish side by side? Was the path of kings and soldiers truly the only way forward, or just one story among many? The chapter gently asks us to notice how power itself can be shaped and reshaped, how possibilities always existed beyond the margins of official histories. Here, the evidence of shared decision-making invites questions rather than answers. Imagine the slow dawn over a city where no monarch commands the morning. Instead, voices gather in assemblies, the weight of authority diffused among many, not lifted by the singular voice of a sovereign. This is power reimagined, not absent, but dispersed, braided into the daily tapestry of life. The pulse of the city moves with consensus, not conquest. The story moves from the grand palaces of kings to the humble homes of these ancient citizens. Here, the idea of who shapes laws and leads rituals is decentralized, shared, rather than seized. What consequences did this have for their lives, their stories, their hopes? Each day, decisions echoed from council fires and courtyards, lending a different rhythm to civilization. This gentle, almost invisible approach to governing challenges the viewer to ask, was centralized power truly inevitable? Did humanity always yearn for rulers, or do we inherit that narrative from those loudest on the world stage? The chapter lingers on this quiet resistance, the way power can emerge from beneath, subtle as seeds beneath soil, awaiting the right moment to grow. Look further, and the differences become more profound. Where kings built monuments to their own glory, these cities invested in the collective, irrigation canals, granaries for all, meeting places for dialogue. Their greatest legacy was not a single name inscribed in stone, but the delicate web of cooperation, a testament to the strength of the many, not the few. This chapter invites the listener to consider, in a world of pyramids, thrones, and sprawling empires, why do these ancient alternatives matter? They flicker as reminders that power is not always a vertical ladder. It can be a circle, a network, a shared dream. Such forms challenge the myth that history must always bend toward hierarchy and command. As the narrative drifts across rivers and plains, echoes of choice and agency linger. History, it seems, was never a single road, but a tangle of footpaths, some grand, some humble, all real. By highlighting these forgotten models, the chapter nudges us to rethink who we are and who we might yet become should we choose collaboration over command. In closing, the story leaves us with a gentle question. What other dreams of power lie buried in history, waiting to inspire new ways of living together? The chapter fades on the notion that civilization is not only built by kings or ruled by decree, but can flourish in quiet unity. Power, after all, can be imagined differently if we listen to the whispers of the past. Chapter 12. Echoes Across Time. As day gives way to twilight, the mists veil the remnants of those lost cities. In their silence, memories flicker, a tapestry of lives woven without kings or thrones. Through the quiet, we sense how their echoes drift into our world, gentle reminders that history is not confined to stories of emperors. Instead, it lingers in shapes of clay pots, in the patterns of ancient homes. Every stone left behind in these cities carries questions to our present age. Could people thrive together, guided by shared purpose instead of orders from above? As we wander their deserted streets in our minds, we notice clues etched in every corner, signs of resilience, harmony, and the ingenuity sparked without a ruler's command. Their world once vanished into the mist, but its resonance stirs something alive within us still. The traces of their collective wisdom stretch into our hands, shaping the way we dream of connection today. Even now, scholars find new fragments and unfinished mural here, a mosaic floor beneath layers of earth-yak discovery echoing their past creativity. These civilizations gift us a vision that community and cooperation might build wonders just as monumental. Though time may wear down stones, their spirit endures quietly through us. Thinking back, we see how their absence of kings did not mean chaos, but possibility. The cities grew around council gatherings, shared rituals, and bustling markets alive with laughter. Today, as we search for meaning in our own crowded lives, their example beckons us. Perhaps within our homes and neighborhoods, the spirit of those ancient builders waits, teaching us how to listen, share, and imagine new ways of being together. In moments of reflection, images of mist-shrouded plazas and sunlit courtyards appear, inviting us to wonder. What if we, too, could gently guide the shape of our own communities? Their experiments with equality offer no perfect answers, yet inspire deeper questions about the life we hope to create. Through these echoes, we remember, greatness can bloom quietly, outside grand palaces and away from thrones, whenever people come together in trust. Still, time's veil sometimes dims their stories. Many names were lost, songs forgotten, yet the underlying current of their society flows beneath our feet. Each time hope flickers in uncertain times, it's as if a voice rises from those vanished cities urging us to remember cooperation and shared dreams. Their ruins are not a testament to failure, but to the remarkable persistence of community, and the hope that it always carries forward. We pause to consider how these echoes shape the present. Across the world, countless traditions and gatherings have their roots deep in similar soil built without hierarchy, thriving on common cause. By tracing these patterns, we find ourselves connected to an ancient lineage of quiet innovation. The grandeur of their city walls wasn't merely in their height, but in the hands that lifted each stone together without the weight of a crown. As the last light fades over these old landscapes, we realize how their choices persist in subtle ways. The communal halls, meeting grounds, and winding lanes they left behind inspire present-day architects and dreamers. Their wisdom suggests that progress does not always come from command, it can arise from shared vision, gentle negotiation, and open-heartedness. In their memory, we find a wellspring for new hopes, ready to be drawn upon. Tonight, as you drift towards rest, imagine the distant pulse of activity in those ancient cities, the hum of lives bound by trust, mutual respect, and curiosity. Let the echoes guide your thoughts, reminding you that the most profound changes may begin quietly, among those who dare to imagine alternatives. The traces of their courage illuminate our own small acts, showing that every effort, no matter how humble, matters. So even as the tale draws to a close, its echoes continue across centuries, beneath modern skylines and among voices seeking a kinder world. The ancient civilizations that rose without kings have left us more than ruins. They offer inspiration, quietly shaping the future. Let us step gently into tomorrow, listening for their wisdom in the spaces between. For in every ending there may blossom the beginning of something new and full